you for joining me today on Clutch, Keon Rose. I'm Keon Rose. Glad to have you here. This is a sports show. I know I'm filling in for Tex of Cowboy Up with Tex. He's off wrangling cows or whatever it is that Texans do in their spare time. But this is a sports show. Monday, this show will be moving to 1 p.m., and that will be my spot from then on. Tex will come back and fill in his usual spot here at 6 in the afternoon here on Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240. I am excited today. There's a whole lot of things to talk about, but before I get into that, I have to tell you about the various ways that you can reach us. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter. Search Hot News Talk Radio. Our Twitter handle is at Hot News Radio. I think I should shamelessly plug myself here. If you want to talk to me specifically, Keon Rose, you can search Sports Cloud. That's my Twitter handle. We can talk about sports during the football season, during the football games. I will more than likely be watching those games. You can tweet me. I have had whole conversations with people during games. It's incredibly fun. But you can also find Hot News Talk Radio on the TuneIn Radio app. You can simply search Hot News Talk Radio in the TuneIn app, which you can find on the Apple Store or the Google Play Store. Search for us, give us a follow, press play. You'll have Hot News Talk Radio wherever you go. Also, if you just are at work and you're in your office, you have your browser open, search hotnewstalkradio.com. We stream there as well. This is Clutch, and I'm excited today, but I'm also a little bit bummed. There are some stories here that remind me of work. And I don't mean this job, which is too much fun, in my opinion, to be work, but like work, like when you go into a retail store and you work there, or you work in a cubicle, a 9 to 5. Only they have a sports twist to them. And I'm not a fan of how some of these things have gone down. For instance, Ryan Mallett is, well, I guess he's the third string quarterback of the Houston Texans now. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the HBO show Hard Knocks. It is an NFL documentary show. It's got about 4 episodes. Every season it comes out at the beginning of the NFL season, and it follows one NFL team through the preseason. And this year, Hard Knocks was following the Houston Texans. And they had a quarterback battle. Basically, they don't know who their starting quarterback was going to be. Was it going to be Brian Hoyer? Was it going to be Ryan Mallett? Both of them are guys that haven't really gotten a ton of chances in places that they've played previously, especially Mallett. Mallett played in New England, where he was the backup to Tom Brady. So there's not a chance in heck that you're going to play at all. You're not going to see the field. Tom's not going to ever let you get the opportunity to play. He's going to try his best to stay healthy, and he's too good. You're not competing against Tom Brady for the starting job. You're just there to be a safety net in case he does ever get injured. So Ryan Mallett is in Houston now, and he's competing against Brian Hoyer, a person I assume of comparable abilities. The coaching staff would follow them and evaluate them during practice. Well, we're getting close to the NFL season, which actually you can listen to here on Thursday nights, Monday nights, and we have a doubleheader on Sunday here on Hot News Talk Radio. The NFL season is close to at hand, so you have to make your quarterback decision now. Your team has to know what direction it's moving in. And Texans head coach Bill O'Brien decided to go with Brian Hoyer. Ryan Mallett, was not pleased with this decision. And you know what? I wouldn't be pleased either. If it were me, I go out, I work my butt off, I compete, I try and get this starting job, and the coach goes with the other guy. You know what? I'm not going to be necessarily thrilled with that either. However, what ends up happening is the next day, Ryan Mallett doesn't show up to practice. And then when he does show up, Coach O'Brien sends him home early. So the story is starting to unravel here. We're like, what's wrong with Ryan Mallett? Was he just mad that he didn't get the job, that he decided not to show up? Well, sort of. I don't know exactly what happened between the time that he was told that the starting job was not his and what happened the next morning, but Ryan Mallett ended up oversleeping and missing practice. Now, we've all been there before. This is just a typical workday scenario, right? You have a job and your alarm clock doesn't go off, or you didn't set it correctly, and then you end up being late for work. This happens, but very rarely do you end up doing so after a performance review of some kind, right? Your boss is telling you, we need you to do this better, we need you to do this better, or we're not going to promote you in this way. Usually the very next thing that you do is not miss work, is not oversleep for work. That's typically not the best thing to do. And apparently Texans head coach Bill O'Brien agrees. He moved Ryan Mallett from the second string quarterback to the third string quarterback. He's now working with the third team. That's just such a bizarre way to go. It's such a, if you're going to make a big stink about not getting the starting job, try your best and try your hardest to look like that's the job that you deserve to have. Another job that's based on a work scenario with a horrifying sports twist is the story coming out of the University of Illinois. Tim Beckman, the head coach of the University of Illinois, was fired today for player mistreatment. And this is a story that gets me riled up because of how players are treated in college football, that they have so much expected of them, and yet there's so little actually given to them. They're not given any compensation for putting their bodies on the line. They're not given a different school schedule than other people. They're expected to pass all the same tests as at the same time as other students. They're expected to learn all the same material, except, many of them have to have jobs as well. And then on top of that, they go to practice for football. They do weight training. They do film study. Like, football is its own part that's taken over their life, and they're not given anything in return for that, yet they're expected to go out on the field and compete all the time. And not just compete, win. Like, you can't just go out there and, we tried. You go out and represent the University of Alabama and lose. See how quickly you'll actually be on that team. They're expected to go out there and win, and they don't get much in the way of compensation, and they don't get much in the way of protection either. And this story out of the University of Illinois, in which Tim Beckman has been fired, is scary only because the players that have been alleging these things against him, they're former players. It's not like, they're current players and they have something out for him and they want to get back at him. They're former players that have been citing these egregiouses for a little bit. Tim Beckman is, for lack of a better way of saying it, he's not been the greatest coach at the University of Illinois. And I think that one of the scary and sad parts of this story is that we might not be hearing the story about Tim Beckman had he been a winner at Illinois. In his 3 seasons with the team, he's been 12-25, 12 wins and 25 losses. And inside of that conference, only 4 wins with 20 losses. And so he's not been a guy that's gone out and won a ton of football games. That usually is your protection, right? In sports, winning cures everything. It heals all ails. In this particular instance, Tim Beckman didn't even have the winning. And I think it's sad to me, and our obsession with winning continues when a guy is actually widely believed by many experts to say, hey, he could have been on this team had he won. Maybe Tim Beckman doesn't get fired if he's a winner. But he wasn't a winner, and the school owed him $3.1 million for this upcoming season. He will not be paid for that, nor will he receive the $743,000 buyout clause, which is yet another thing that coaches have over players in college sports, is that a lot of times these players are doing what their coaches ask them to do, and in return, they don't get any money. They get a scholarship. Some of them, they don't all get a scholarship. Say you're a walk-on player, you're expected to do everything that the guy with the scholarships got done, except you have no scholarship. You still have to pay your way through college. Good luck, kid. Good luck. And your head coach, by the way, makes $3 million a year. That's the part that that has to sting if you're a college athlete. Where this story gets noticeably worse than all the other stories, and we can talk about this a little bit later, maybe on the show next week, about how I believe that college athletes ought to be compensated for what they do. What ends up happening in these stories, and what makes them worse, is when the players are physically mistreated. CNN report came out this week. A former player of Tim Beckman, Kenny Knight, basically said that he was physically attacked by Knight. And I wish that I could say, oh yeah, no, he's making it up. I don't think he's making it up. And I will cite the Rutgers head coach, the basketball head coach of Rutgers, Mike Rice, a few years ago, when he was actually caught on film insulting players, yelling at them with homophobic slurs. Players that were not gay would receive the same treatment. It was just bad. He would yell things at players. He would throw the basketball at them if they weren't paying attention, hit them right in the face. He'd push them. He'd kick them. And the video's still on YouTube if you want to find it. It's disturbing, but it's still there if you want to find it. And a lot of these coaches feel like we can get away with stuff. And in the case of Mike Rice, it's hard because everybody knew that practice was filmed, including Coach Rice. So that one, it's not like someone snuck in a camera and filmed it. That was the practice film. When it comes to Tim Beckman, I believe that's something that could happen. That a lot of these coaches, especially coaches in conferences where you have a lot of pressure to win. He's in the Big Ten. Okay, that's a Power 5 conference. You've got a lot of pressure on you to win, and you take it out on these kids. You take it out on these student athletes. They don't get paid. They don't make a dime for what they do, but you take it out on them. And the pressure gets to be too much in a lot of cases. The athletic director, Mike Thomas, is the one who had to do the firing. And we talked about it a little bit earlier in the week with Steve Sarkisian when he got drunk. Your athletic director is the guy that usually hires the head coach of any college football team. So when he hires somebody, he puts his neck out on the line for that guy. And now Mike Thomas finds himself in a lot of hot water because he hired Tim Beckman. The offensive coordinator of the team, Bill Cubit, is going to be the interim head coach for the time being. But this is a really sad story to have break right before the college season starts. A lot of team pride in the air, a lot of happiness because football is fun and it means a lot to a lot of people, especially in America. But you just can't mistreat your players like that, physically attack them. Another thing that was reported that Coach Tim Beckman did was he pressured players to play through injuries. He would deter injury reports. He would hide them. And he would postpone medical treatment because once a player got treated, it would show up in the injury report. And I understand that there's a little bit of gamesmanship there, that you've got an injury report. Once it's put out, the other team can see that injury report. And so you do have a tendency to hide injuries. It happens in the NFL. You wait until the last possible second to report an injury. You know, a guy is listed as probable for playing on Sunday, and then the game starts and he's not in the game. He's out of the game. Well, that's because you were pretending that he wasn't injured so that the other team wouldn't know what advantage they had. It happens. But when it comes to college athletes, okay, people with no insurance, no way to insure their health, you cannot mess around with somebody's health, especially someone who's 18, 19, 20 years old. Not only is that unfair, that's highly, highly unethical. And it's wrong. And I was reading the CBS report, and the CBS report was telling me, had Tim Beckman been a more winning football coach, he might still have his job. How often does this happen? There's hundreds of college schools in this country, and many of them are in those Power 5 conferences. Many of them are in those places where the pressure is on you to win and win right away. Like, guess what? You get hired to be a head coach and you don't have a football team with a winning record in the next 4, 5, 6 seasons, you're done. You're fired. You're finished. And you have to find another job. You've got to find another place to go, pack up your bags, and move your family. And that pressure gets to you, and it causes you to do things that maybe are not characteristic of you, but are definitely in the realm of the unethical. This is Clutch with Keon Rose. When we come back, we'll talk about many things, the Titans, the Falcons, when their preseason games are, and a little bit of Redskins talk here on Clutch with Keon Rose. Next.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Costa, host of the Costa Report, every Sunday at 9 a.m. Did you know that 1 out of 10 Americans will be diagnosed with what is considered to be a rare disease, and that it could take up to 3-5-8 years to diagnose that disease? Find out how my next guest, Jared Heyman, is using the internet to cut that time to less than 3 months. Don't miss Jared Heyman this Sunday at 9 a.m. on the Costa Report, right here on AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
Here you are, working to keep your customers happy and to manage your cash flow. IRS problems are the last thing you need, but here they are, flapping about you like vultures. Get help from Eric Pelton and his team of accountants at E.J. Pelton Company. Audits, letters, proposed return changes, 1099s, penalty threats. Pelton Tax Resolution Services brings peace of mind and helps you keep more of what you've earned. EJPelton.com. Offices on Brainerd Road and in Saudi Daisy, just north of the Bilo. That's E.J. Pelton. Call 622-3156. Think ahead, 622-3156.
When my brother and I opened the first Jets Pizza, we believed if we made the best pizza, customers would find us. So we made fresh dough each day, used fresh toppings, and premium mozzarella cheese. 300-plus stores later, we still do.
Try Jet's famous 8-corner pizza with premium mozzarella cheese and one topping, now just $11.99 for a limited time only. Jet's Pizza, the best pizza in town. 3600 Hickson Pike.
Life is short. Eat better pizza.
Let's get Jets.
Are you tired of working in corporate America, or have you recently lost your job and would like to consider owning your own business? If you are, please call me, as I can help you look at franchises or business opportunities that fit you, the economy that we're in, and the type of businesses that are right in the greater Chattanooga area. After I help my clients find the right opportunity, I also help them find the best way to finance the business, including paying yourself through the startup phase. If you would like to learn more about opportunities that may be right for you, please call me for a free assessment. My name is Bruce Krebs at the Entrepreneur Source. Phone number is 423-875-5621.
Welcome back to Clutch with Keon Rose. I'm Keon Rose. Thank you for joining me this Friday evening, bringing you hopefully the best in local sport talk here on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. Got a lot of things to talk about today, including Ashley Madison talk, which of all the people on this station, I've managed to avoid it. Everyone's brought it up in some level. Eric Judd talked a little bit about it. His show intro, he says, features a former Ashley Madison model. You can catch Eric Judd from 11 to noon. And I know Russell's talked about it in the case of digital security on the Digital Drive, which you can catch from 12 to 1 here on Hot News Talk Radio. And to Russell's point about security, several ESPN employees have had their names come up in the Ashley Madison leak. And we're not talking about janitors. We're talking about high-level employees at ESPN, 100 of them. 101 to be specific. And I don't want to get too much into that because that's getting into that shame culture that I'm not particularly a huge fan of. But a lot of people use their ESPN emails to sign up for the site, so you know that it's not someone else faking their name, because someone else could foreseeably sign up for Ashley Madison with your name, and then your name's on the list. It's not a situation like that. It's your ESPN email account that only ESPN employees have. You just got to be careful. Be careful with that stuff. Don't sign up for things like that. For goodness sakes, don't cheat on your wife. I don't know that anyone should have to tell you that, but here we are with several top government officials, famous people from apparently every walk of life, and caught up in this thing. So look, it's one of those things that if you really stop and think about it, you wouldn't do it. You wouldn't do it. Okay. It's one thing to have an affair in the passion of the moment, which is its own issue and also not right. But it's another thing to go, I'm going to have an affair. I don't know where to find one. Oh, here's a website that shows me where to have affairs. I can do that. Like that is I guess with how premeditated that is, that's the part that bothers me the most about that. But enough about Ashley Madison. I feel like it was obligatory. Everyone in the station was doing it. I had to join in. I had to chime in. I had no choice. This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter if you search Hot News Talk Radio. You can hear us on AM 1240 on your dials, in your car, radio in your house. Check us out. And you can also hear us on the TuneIn Radio app in the Apple Store or on the Google Play Store. Simply search the TuneIn Radio app. It's absolutely free. Search Hot News Talk Radio. Give us a follow. Check us out. And you can have Hot News Talk Radio wherever you go. And you will be able to hear the voice of me and others at this station. Also, we're on YouTube. We stream live. You can get a peek into the station of what it looks like to do the show. On YouTube, search Hot News Talk Radio on YouTube. It's the first thing that comes up, I promise. We always interact with you. I have some stories that I really want to talk about, especially involving the Redskins. I understand that I talk about the Redskins a little too much, but to be fair, they're in the national news a lot. They do this to themselves. The Washington Redskins are immune to keeping a low profile. I don't think that they even know what that means. Every single season, the Redskins are doing something or saying something, and they're not winning. Like, the only thing that they are not doing is winning. But everything else is up for grabs. You've got the Skins involved in the name scandal, and what's Robert Griffin III up to now? And boy, look, I like to talk about it. It's fun for me, but at the same time, I'd like one off season, literally where I don't have to talk about the Redskins, where nobody talks about the Redskins. When the season starts and then the Redskins win, like, I don't know, 4 of their first 5 games or something, and they're 4-1, and then people go, hey, look, aren't the Redskins doing great? Haven't heard from them in a while. I mean, that would just be swell. That would just be amazing if that could ever happen. I highly doubt it will. It hasn't been their MO for the last 20 years or ever how long it's been since Dan Snyder's owned the team. But no one would be more thrilled than me to just go through an entire offseason and hear nothing about the Redskins. I would be ecstatic. The only offseason talk I want to hear about the Redskins are your Super Bowl champions, the Washington Redskins talk. It is just wishful thinking. It's been 20 years. At this point, I'm really not I'm not really holding out hope for it. But that's the only Redskin talk I want to hear in the offseason. Instead, we get Jay Gruden, the head coach of the Washington Redskins, taking offense to being called fat. I'm not sure who it is that called him fat, but he said, "Hey, I'm not fat. I'm only 225 pounds." Jay Gruden, the former quarterback and younger brother of Monday Night Football commentator John Gruden, is the head coach of the Washington Redskins, and he's been in the news a lot, if not mostly for his relationship with quarterback Robert Griffin III, which has been embattled at best and really just a bad relationship at worst. It's not good. And they had some drama and controversy last season. Jay Gruden called out Robert Griffin after Robert Griffin had a couple of bad games. He went to the media with it, which I feel like is probably one of the worst ways to handle that. If you have a criticism for one of your players, don't take it to the media. Don't go outside of the house to air your dirty laundry. Put it in the dryer. Okay? When it comes to that situation, like, how would I like it if I had a bad show and then my boss took it upon himself to let the entire world know I had a bad show? Just called up the Chattanooga Times Free Press and said, hey, Clutch was terrible last Thursday. It was awful. And I just like the world to know this. We're not firing him. We're not benching him. We're just letting you know that he was bad. I would feel a way about that. I would feel upset about that. I would. And here's the head coach, Jay Gruden, going to the media, criticizing Robert Griffin. He didn't do this. He didn't do that. And Jay Gruden is an honest guy. He'll tell you what's on his mind. But I think there are some situations where you should probably keep yourself to yourself. Keep your mouth shut. Not because you don't deserve to talk or don't have the right to talk, but because you do more harm than good in that particular situation. And because of that, it closes up not just Jay Gruden to the media, because he hasn't said as much in recent months, but it's closed up Robert Griffin as well. Robert Griffin, when he first came in the league, would answer every question. He'd answer it honestly. He'd answer it with a smile on his face. He had a lot of personality. He was having a lot of fun with it. And now he's grumpy and ornery. It's like being president. He got to Washington and aged 4 years. He's a different guy. And they asked him a question yesterday or 2 days ago about his concussion and how he was able to recover from his concussion so fast. And Robert Griffin basically said that he didn't have a concussion. The team doctors thought he did, so they gave him the concussion test. He passed the test. He didn't show any further signs of concussion, etc. And then, people asked him about whether or not Jay Gruden had it in for him. If him being on the field as long as he was in that game, because he was getting sacked, okay? He was getting crushed. He was getting hit by linebackers that he didn't see coming, and the offensive line wasn't blocking a soul, okay? That wasn't 5 guys playing offensive line. That was 5 turnstiles. You and 4 other people could have gotten past the Washington Redskins that night. And he was getting knocked around. At some point, I have to say, with all the injuries that have been happening in this preseason, maybe you're the head coach. Pull that guy out of there. He's your starting quarterback. Do you want him to be another meaningless injury? Pull that guy out of there. Jay Gruden decided that the offense needed the work, so he let Robert Griffin go back out. And so the question basically was, did Jay Gruden do that on purpose to get you hurt? And Robert Griffin was annoyed and angered, as he rightly should be, because that's ridiculous. I mean, that is absolutely preposterous of an accusation that's basically designed as bait. When you answer it, if you don't answer it correctly, is going to be 100 links on the internet with Robert Griffin said that his head coach tried to injure him on purpose. You've got to answer that one correctly. I think he did. He said, look, man, you have to take it up with him. I just work here. Which I thought was funny and I thought was cool. But also, it kind of gets me down a little bit, because that's a lot less personality than Robert's had before. Robert would answer your question honestly in the past. And the reason why he's not doing that now is because the media is so overbearing, and we're so hell-bent on finding these stories and digging up these stories and trying to say, aha, athlete X said this. Look, isn't it bad that he said this? And we're trying to pull everyone under and make everyone look like an awful person. And then, surprise, surprise, we don't get interesting answers from people anymore because they don't want to say anything. They're afraid that their honesty is going to be misconstrued as arrogance or not being a team player or whatever it is that you can read into that. The media becomes the enemy instead of the conduit between the fan and the athlete, or the fan and the coach, or the fan and the team. It now becomes an adversarial role. It becomes something that's more combative. The fan wants to find out, so the media goes in there to ask the questions, but the media and the athlete, team, or coach, now they don't get along. Now you've got answers coming from these guys that are completely disingenuous and boring and not true. I'm going to take this one game at a time. We're going to take this one play at a time. We're not looking ahead to next week like you are. And I can't blame them for not being honest because of what we in the media do in crushing them. That if someone does say something honest and, God forbid, interesting, we go on a smear campaign. And it sells. The fans lap it up. So we ended up with nobody saying anything interesting at all. Got a little piece of interesting news, though, out of Miami. I'm a huge fan of jerseys. Now, here's the thing. I am broke. I don't have a ton of money, but if I did have a ton of money, I would own so many jerseys. It is unreal. I look up jerseys all the time and fantasize about buying them, but then I don't actually buy them because I can't afford it. NBA jerseys and NFL jerseys are expensive. You know, the new Tennessee jerseys came out. They signed their new deal with Nike, and I saw some of them, and I'm like, yeah, I'd like to go get one of those. But you know what? I can't afford one of those. Nike jersey is going to cost you an arm and a leg. I'm going to keep my appendages and my money. I want one, but I mean, they look nice. But the Miami Heat are batting around the idea of these really cool Miami Vice jerseys for next season. And I'm looking at them and I'm like, these things are cool. The NBA has got to make that happen. Like, it's got this kind of pink trim with the neon blue. They're Miami Vice jerseys. I mean, that was a great TV show. That was a cool TV show. That is the intersection of pop culture and sports that I'm a very, very, very huge fan of. I want one of those so badly. I want it to exist first. The league hasn't actually made it. I want the jersey to first exist. If I could see that on TV with my own two eyes, I would be fairly pleased. If I could own one, I would be even happier. And maybe I should start a Kickstarter or something. And I've got a golf alert here for you, for you golf fans. Jordan Spieth, the former #1 player in the world, and I mean, he rose extremely quickly from being this is his first season on the tour, and he became the #1 golfer in the world after his second place finish a few weeks back, and he passed Rory McIlroy. Rory wasn't able to play in that tournament at all, so he passed up Rory, became the #1 player in the world, and so they were playing at the Barclays today in the second round, and after shooting a 72 yesterday and a 74 today, young Jordan Spieth missed the cut for the first time in his career, and also is the first player ever to miss the cut after being #1 in the world. His first tournament as #1, and he misses the cut. And that's very unfortunate. I'm a huge Jordan Spieth fan. I can talk a little bit more about my bandwagon golf sensibilities. We'll also talk a little bit of Kobe and Shaq and a little bit of Russell Wilson and his weird obsession with recovery water. This is Clutch with Keon Rose. We'll be back next.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds. We'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
After some patchy morning fog, staying warm and dry weather for your Friday. A few more afternoon clouds, highs 85 to 87 tonight. Lows only to the upper 60s, so not as mild, with a few isolated, widely scattered showers and storms returning for the weekend with highs 80 to 85. This forecast is brought to you by New Belvita Breakfast Bites. Waking up for the morning show, that's your morning win. Make Belvita Breakfast Bites part of your breakfast and have a morning win of your own. And I'm WDEF News 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr. On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
This is America Now with Meghan McCain.
Al Gore running is crazy. You're flying around in your private jet all over the world, and you want average Americans to care about the environment. Don't you think you should be doing your part as well?
Meghan McCain, weekdays at 7 p.m.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
We've got a table here at Delia's and Saudi Daisy, ready to delight in a plate of authentic Mexican food. Delia's spreads a rich selection: loaded nachos, crazy chicken, homemade tamales, maybe the enchiladas with beef, chicken, pork, quesadillas. Every dish beautifully pictured on the menu to help us decide. Join us for lunch or dinner. We're at Delia's and Saudi Daisy on Dayton Pike near the Thrasher Light. Here's dinner. Delia's uses the freshest ingredients, cooked to perfection. Nachos, homemade. Delia's open every day except the Lord's Day. For lunch and dinner, treat yourself to Delia's genuine Mexican food. In Saudi, call 521-7145. That's 521-7145.
You want more business. You want to increase your bottom line. You want to spend less on advertising, imaging your business, and general expenses. You need Trade Bank. Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Trade Bank. Call now to get access to nearly 400 local businesses. Trade Bank. Call 877-2202. 877-2202. Trade Bank. You want to increase your cash flow, your competitive edge, attract new customers, and build a loyal customer base. You need Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Call right now. 877-2202. When you join Trade Bank, you'll get the benefit of free advertising in our monthly magazine, tradebank.com, emails, and mailouts. Join Trade Bank now and receive your Trade Bank debit card with trade credits to spend any way you want with our wide variety of Trade Bank partners. For almost 30 years, Trade Bank has been your voice for small business, a member of the American Bankers Association, and in good standing with you. Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Call now for a free consultation, 877-2202. That's 877-2202. Trade Bank of Chattanooga.
If you have the DTs, the shakes, because your phone is on the fritz, you have nomophobia. You need help. Your telecom doctor is in. Cell Surgeon at Northgate Mall. Cell Surgeon yanks open the ribcage of your phone, pries out the dead heart, and puts in the beating life that you lead on your cell phone. Broken screen, phone not charging, water damage, battery given out? Cell Surgeon at Northgate Mall next Old Chicago Pizza. Check us out on Facebook. Open Sunday. Cell Surgeon. We bring your phone back to life. Mention Hot News Talk Radio and get 10% off.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
This is Clutch with Keon Rose. I'm Keon Rose. I'd like to thank you for joining me today here on Hot News Talk Radio AM 1240. You can find us on Twitter and Facebook. If you search Hot News Talk Radio, you can find us on YouTube as well. Hot News Talk Radio. You can see a live stream of our shows. David Tulis from 9 to 11, Eric Judd immediately after that, and he's followed at noon by Russell on the Digital Drive. And you can catch the 5 to 6 Hot News Now local drive home show, also featuring Russell. It updates you on the news of the day from around the country, around the world, and, of course, more importantly, around Chattanooga, including the traffic reports, weather reports, and so on. All the news you need to know, Hot News Now at 5 every weekday. So all of those avenues we can be found in. TuneIn Radio app. It's free. You search Hot News Talk Radio, and you've got me, you've got David Tulis, Eric Judd, Russell Stroud, all of us. It's like you've got your best friends with you. That's what we're here for. So, without further ado, I'd like to talk about Kobe and Shaq, because Kobe and Shaq, probably more so than anybody in the history of sports, embodies the great what if. What if the two of them could have been friends? What if the two of them could have stayed together? They obviously had their disagreements over the course of their careers. And I think with Kobe, especially, Kobe's so intense and just, you've got to work hard. You've got to work hard. I'm not here to babysit you. I'm not going to play around with you. Winning is business, and you work. And Shaq is a guy that was so naturally talented and so naturally gifted in terms of his size and his speed at his size and the athleticism and touch that he had at his size, that I don't believe that Shaquille O'Neal ever really bought into the idea that he had to work hard for everything. And to be fair, that's a lot of people in life. That's me. That's probably you. Not that you're not a hard worker, but if you had that level of talent and life came that easily to you, you might not work hard too. I'm just saying. You're already an NBA champion. You're already making the millions, and you haven't had to work hard to that point. Why would you start now? I get it. But they didn't agree. That was just a huge difference in their philosophies and how they approached their careers that ultimately led to them breaking apart. Shaq and Kobe, Shaq has a podcast. It's called The Big Podcast. And Kobe came on. And it was just interesting because they talked very candidly about their relationship, about how there were times where they didn't like each other. And when I say times, I mean whole stretches of time where they just didn't like each other, where Kobe showed up to play and it was just, hey, it's all business. I have to work with this guy, so I'm working with this guy. I'm not here to be his friend. You know, it's like one of those reality TV shows, Survivor or whatever, where the guy or woman, and you know what? The amount of times that they say this in reality TV, it ought to make you sick by now. Well, I'm not here to be friends. I'm here to win. That was Shaq and Kobe's relationship. That was their actual reality for the several years that they played together in Los Angeles. And it was great to hear them talk about that and just be honest. When Shaq was saying, you know, that he wanted out of LA, he was saying, oh, well, I didn't really want out of LA. I was trying to get the leverage to get more money. I was trying to say the things that I needed to say to put myself in a position to be advantageous. The fact of the matter is Shaquille O'Neal made the Los Angeles Lakers choose between him and Kobe Bryant, and they chose Kobe. He forced their hand. And sometimes that gamble backfires. And in that instance, it backfired hard. I mean, I've never seen a power play like that go as badly for a guy with as big a name as Shaq. That's a lot of power. That's a lot of power. That's one of the top 10 players in the history of the game right there in Shaquille O'Neal. And they just left him off to the side. They were like, you know what? We're choosing Kobe. And at first, it looked like the wrong decision, right? Shaq goes on to Miami. He wins a title with Dwayne Wade in the Miami Heat. And it didn't look like a good decision at first, but Kobe comes back and he gets another 2 championships in the end to solidify his legacy and to solidify his career. So they talked about their friendship as such, but they also talked about Dwight Howard. A little bit of Dwight Howard bashing. Dwight Howard was with the Lakers for 1 season. He got traded to the Magic, and during his time there, he looked miserable, both in his playing and in his actual demeanor, his personality there. It didn't look like it was a great fit. Dwight Howard is another goofy guy. He's a big, lovable guy. Not as hard a worker as Kobe. A few people are, but if you're willing to try to work, from what I understand, Kobe Bryant is more tolerant of you if you're trying. If you try less, he's not going to be your friend. It's not even like he may not like you. Like Kobe Bryant simply does not want to know you if you don't try, which is insane. That's an extreme way to live, and a lot of athletes are like that. That kind of, we live in the extreme. If you don't work hard, I don't want to know you. Kobe, Kevin Garnett, those guys are all about putting in the work. Dwight Howard wanted to go to LA. He wanted to play for the Lakers. He wanted to be good. He wanted to have fun. Kobe's not about having fun, as he quickly learned. And Kobe said on Shaq's podcast, I didn't appreciate playing with Shaq until I played with Dwight Howard. Ouch. It's a very messed up thing to say because Kobe's whole thing with Shaq is that Shaq never worked as hard as he could have. And he basically just called Dwight Howard lazier than Shaq. It's very unkind. Let's put it that way. That's one of the worst ways that he could have said that. And he said it on purpose. Kobe's a very calculated guy. He doesn't say things emotionally. Kobe knew what he was saying. So I'm interested in seeing how Dwight Howard's going to respond, if Dwight Howard responds at all. I think that he shouldn't. Let it roll off your back, man. You're with the Rockets. They're a very good team. You're playing on a team that is a legitimate contender year in and year out in the Western Conference. You got beat up by the Golden State Warriors, but, you know, they're the NBA champs. Who didn't get beat up by them? You know? You're playing on a good team. You're not the focal point of that team. You know, James Harden is the guy that carries that team. Dwight Howard goes down. The Rockets are still winning because they got James. You're not the focal point of that team, but hey, you're on a winner. Russell Wilson, also a winner. But you know what's interesting about Russell Wilson? He's been caught up in this thing a little bit lately. And the thing about Russell Wilson is it's hard to tell whether or not Russell Wilson is even a genuine guy. Like you want to believe that he is on some level, but on some level you can't. Like Russell Wilson he talks like an inspirational speaker, but like all the time. He never turns it off. It never goes away and becomes, oh, this is just Russell the guy talking to you. Russell always feels like he's talking like he's always got a camera watching him. Like he's got to say the best possible thing all the time. And, you know, maybe he actually believes that. Maybe he actually lives that way. I myself am a huge fan of, I keep inspirational quotes on my phone to keep me pumped up, keep me fired up, keep me locked in and motivated on what I'm trying to get accomplished. So I certainly believe that there is a level of reality to that. But just the way that Russell Wilson talks all the time, you can't believe that that's an actual person sometimes. Like that an actual person is speaking like this. Nobody talks like this. This is not real. Okay? Well, Russell Wilson has gotten into another Russell Wilson-esque controversy. It's controversy for him. You know, if another guy got caught in this is nothing. But because Russell Wilson is such a good guy and doesn't actually do anything wrong, this is Wilson controversy. It's not the worst thing to ever happen in life, but we got to talk about it because it is interesting. Russell Wilson has been a spokesperson for this product called recovery water, which he has said has helped him. Well, it said it helped him recover from concussions, which is beyond asinine. Okay, there's nothing that can help you recover from concussions. And then he said, you know what? No, he misspoke. It helped him prevent concussions, that he avoids concussions by drinking this recovery water. There was something in there about nano bubbles. Look, it's snake oil is what it is. There's nothing that you can drink that will help you prevent concussions. And with concussions being as serious an issue as they are, I do not appreciate him promoting this product as a concussion preventer. Russell Wilson is a Super Bowl champion and a heck of a quarterback. Eric Judd and I were talking about it earlier, our top 5 quarterbacks. Eric's got Russell in his top 5. And while he's not in my top 5, he's darn close. He's a very good quarterback. And as such, you've got kids looking up to you. You've got people looking up to you. When you tell them that here's something that you can drink that helps you prevent concussions, I think that's wrong. And it's wrong for the sole reason of concussions kill people. The research has come out for this. The NFL is in hot water over this, that the hits to the head that athletes have been taking, and not just in the NFL, in the NHL, in rugby, in other sports that have high rates of concussions, these things kill people. You get early onset dementia. You cannot sit there and tell people that you drink this water that helps you prevent concussions. And also its other side effects are keeping you hydrated and keeping you feeling refreshed and ready to go. I know what that is already. That's not recovery water. That's just water. There's this thing called water that helps you feel refreshed and hydrated. Recovery water doesn't do what it says it does. Tom Brady is a guy that it's not as big as widely publicized, but he's had his name attached to this product called NeuroSafe, which also is supposed to prevent concussions. Stop it. Stop it. Okay? This is wrong to tell people that you can prevent something that is deadly. Okay? Deadly. Simply by taking a product that it doesn't have the backing of the FDA to do that. It doesn't have the backing of anything to do that. Tom Brady said so people will believe it. Well, guess what? Your name carries a lot of weight. We talked about it earlier in the week with LeBron James, how much a single tweet from LeBron James is worth. $140,000. Do you know why LeBron's words have such economic value? He's a superstar in the public eye. And you've got to be responsible with those words. And you cannot say, to a high school kid, all right? And the way that we do this in the media is I can't see you listening to me right now, but I might as well be talking to you, just you. You're a single individual, okay? Same thing. It could be a high school kid listening to Russell Wilson talk about recovery water, and he's suffered a concussion playing high school football, and he's thinking, all I've got to do is drink this recovery water. I can help prevent concussions. No. You prevent concussions by playing the game safely, by tackling with your head up, by not launching yourself headfirst like a missile, by following the rules that protect players that are defenseless after catching a football. That is how you prevent concussions. Or you stop playing the game like Chris Borland did a season ago, retiring from the San Francisco 49ers after being the defensive rookie of the year. That is how you prevent concussions. Those are the only ways to prevent concussions. Play safer or stop playing the game. But don't try and push people with this snake oil garbage. This is not medically backed by anything. And that's dangerous stuff. When you're a person in a public position with powerful words that reach millions, literally millions, you cannot be reckless with the thing that you are saying, with the thing that you are selling. Russell Wilson, you cannot. Nanobubbles do not prevent concussions. The Atlanta Falcons will be playing their third preseason game this Sunday. This is the preseason game that you want to watch. If you watch the preseason, this is the one where the starters play the longest. Okay, this is not a game that actually matters, but it's the one where they play the longest. And the Atlanta Falcons will be taking on the Miami Dolphins, featuring a revamped defensive lineup with Cameron Wake and the newly acquired Ndamukong Suh. So that should be interesting to watch this weekend. You can follow the NFL here on Hot News Talk Radio, your new home of the NFL, your home of NASCAR, as we have been for a while now, right here on AM 1240. Thanks for tuning in today. We'll see you on Monday at 1 p.m. This is Clutch with Keon Rose.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world. You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
WSDT Sunny Daisy, Chattanooga.